Welcome, my friends. How are you all doing?
Doing good.
Good
Great,
morning.
Good,
Thank you.
good.
Blessed. Yeah, absolutely great.
Incredible. Well, look, this is going to be a work in progress because we have a few guests yet to join, but we're very excited to be here. We're back for the Rockstar panel number 2 and all new guests, all new friends, people I love and cherish. So, welcome to the Rockstar Forum. My name is Rob Leland, and I will be the host and the facilitator today. I'm the managing director of Rockstar Superhero. And as I mentioned before, today we are continuing our discussions on the subject of mental health, specifically talking about the effects of anger and how we deal with it as entertainers. So, a reminder to those that are listening that none of us today are healthcare specialists or counselors or doctors or anybody you should take seriously. But we are here because we hope this conversation enlightens and encourages you. So thanks for joining us. And so now I will introduce my friends so we can jump right into the fray. So to my right, we have Christian Dahl Blumenberg from Feather Mountain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be here. Yeah.
Thank you. We have Sam Worsfold from Sunfall.
How you going?
That's great, man. We have Josh Monk from Sugar Spine.
Hello, how you going?
Hey, buddy. We have Lofa Tatupu from Zonin CBD and your Seattle Seahawks.
What's happening?
We have Laz Regan from Seek Harbor.
Hey guys, how you all doing?
Hey, and we have Dmitry Afanasyev from Synoptic calling in all the way from Ukraine.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, we have other people, as I mentioned, we have other people still coming. So that's an exciting surprise for the future. But to get things going, first of all, I want to say what a huge honor it is that you guys are sharing this with me today. It really means a ton that you're here, and it warms my dark heart. So really, man, much love. And to everybody watching, thank you so much for being a part of this. So what I'd like to do is start this whole conversation off. Today we're talking about anger. And, you know, I think when people think about mental health or mental illness, they're automatically going straight to what they term crazy behavior, right? We're talking about the assumption that people need to be hospitalized or that they suffer from a disorder like bipolar. But there are other aspects of being in a mental health crisis, and I'm a perfect example of one of them. So I'm actually going to start this whole thing off by throwing myself under the bus and giving an example of how patterns become habits that can overwhelm. I mean, as we all know, anger can be spurred on at any time. Certainly, if there's enough dissonance or frustration or negative habits, it's a combination of all those things, and it can be really, really brutal. So most artists that I know are desperate to be heard, right? Which in my personal case led to a lot of frustration and anger, this need or feeling that I had to be somebody important or an influencer was a big lie that I believed in for a really long time. And this habit of lack has to be my personal number one failure in life. It's something I've had to overcome. So I don't want this show today to be about me. It is not. I'm merely here as a facilitator. But I think addressing this in the beginning is a really wise idea. And so let me tell you a brief story and then we'll jump in, okay? For me, guys, it really comes from childhood where I had a tremendous amount of autonomy. But with that autonomy, that latchkey kid sort of philosophy, came a lot of isolation. Now, I was born in 1966. So back in 1970, I was getting ready to go into kindergarten. And, the teachers, they give IQ tests back then. I don't know if they do nowadays, but that's what they used to do. And I was one of those weird, nerdy kids that tested really high. And my parents saw this as a way to sort of allow me to explore who I was, and in a way, as a parent, they were doing the right thing, right? They were looking back and they were saying, there's a little boy, we're going to give him some autonomy and we're going to get behind his strengths. But what I didn't discover and what my parents didn't discover until years and years later was that independence actually affected me negatively, because as I aged, I let those feelings of loneliness creep in and get the best of me. And they started to overcome my desire to be successful. And I don't want to say I wasn't trying to be a famous person. I wasn't trying to be a celebrity. I wasn't trying to be a rock star in the traditional way, but I wanted to be successful in my music. I wanted people to hear what I was creating. And that led to a lot of feelings of imposter syndrome. I started to doubt who I was. Then I started making bad choices. I got married very young. I had children very young. And even though those children aren't accidents, all of these things piled on top of me. And the next thing I know, I'm 30 years old and I'm pissed off at the world and I want to take it out on everyone. And that feeling has never gone away. It sits in me. It's in me every day. Every day I wake up, I'm excited to start the day. But every day I wake up and I recognize a very, very high level of anger and dissatisfaction in my life because it didn't work out how I expected. So I'm curious. I mean, I have 9 winners sitting in front of me, or 8 winners, or 7 winners, or 6 winners. However many winners we have. But I have all these winners, and you know what I mean? I don't understand. Am I the only one that feels like this, or are other people dealing with these feelings of lack as well as me? Anybody? Christian, you want to start since you were here first?
Yeah, of course. I think we can all, I think we all share those feelings. And even though, I mean, yeah, your story is not very similar to mine. I'm 30 years old now. I don't have any kids. I don't have a wife. I had a girlfriend until recently. We were together for 12 years.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, we started dating when we were very young. And yeah, for several reasons, we're not together anymore. And when you talk about, getting some habits early in life that you have to deal with later on, I think I've really dived into that after I wasn't with her anymore. I feel like I was really scared at first because I felt like I didn't know who I was, because I've been with her for so long, and I could also see some patterns that slowly but surely had, affected my sense of worth, my confidence, and regarding my drumming and my music, but also regarding myself as a person. I think I have a lot of self-hate and a lot of doubts about myself. And that's something I'm struggling with all the time. And I don't think of myself as a very hateful person or a very angry person. I do my best to show empathy and love and care for everyone, but I have a long way to go regarding myself. That's something I learned half a year ago.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it before that. It's not the same as your story, but I can recognize some of the things that you're telling.
How did you learn it, though? Maybe I missed this. How did you learn that? What was the moment, the strike?
I didn't tell. We have a great run, and at the end, I felt like something was missing. I felt like there was something wrong, and I couldn't really understand why I felt that way, because I was with the perfect girl. I had the perfect girlfriend, and what could the reason be that something felt off all the time? I thought that it had to be me. It had to be me that had a problem. And then I figured out later on that gut feeling was spot on. There was a reason why I felt that way. And but I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't believe in the hunch that something was off with the relationship.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm trying to learn to trust myself and trust my gut feeling, because for a very long time I've kept pushing it down, and whenever something felt off, then it was probably me and not the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of my anger or a lot of my hate is against myself.
Okay. That seems to be the number one thing. I mean, again, I don't want to speak for anybody else here today, but over and over again, every counselor I've ever spoken to in my life says the same thing to me. And I imagine you've heard this as well, which is, how can you love anyone else if you don't love yourself?
Exactly.
We're getting
Yeah.
right into the cheese right off the bat, man.
That's true, though. Yeah.
But it's so true, Lofa, you and I, we talked a few weeks ago, and at the end of our conversation, I mentioned that I was going to be doing this new one about anger, and you were like, dude, I'm angry.
I was. I still am.
I know. But you made a career out of beating people up. I mean, you used to get paid to kick people's ass. So I'm curious how did you overcome that? Did you get your jollies on the field? Were you past it by then? I mean, when did you grow out?
I think, the self-doubt or, the things that we were speaking of, the lacking, kind of growing up, I was like the only Samoan in Massachusetts. So I didn't really look like anybody else. I didn't really fit in with the crowd. And so, and everybody gets bullied when they're young. At least, back when we were kids, you got bullied. And, it's kind of that double-edged sword of what football did for me. In a sense, I think I used it in the wrong light early on. When I was a kid, I was beating the shit out of people on the field because that was my outlet or my release. It's going to come out. Any emotion you suppress, it's going to come out eventually. And so anger was one that I would hold in. I got into a lot of fights when I was a kid. My parents, they didn't appreciate that. But it was, it just, and it would be little things, it wouldn't necessarily be one thing. It'd be like little things building up until it boiled over and just, the Hulk came out. And so I think the biggest thing that I'm recognizing now, and that's keeping me from that guy coming out is dealing with the situation at the moment, being in the moment, realizing that it's really not that big of a deal, most situations. And that if I can verbalize it and talk to whoever I'm dealing with, like, hey, I didn't really appreciate that. This is why. They at least have a heads up to not do that again, right? Especially when I'm talking like as a parent, as a husband, all these interactions with my family, people that I do not want to lose my cool or my temper on. But, it's dealing with those emotions. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to learn to do. But yeah, you're right. And then, when they were rewarding me for beating people up, it's kind of like, like I'm getting applauded for doing something that I shouldn't really be doing or should not be taking pride in.
Right. Or join.
It's a very fucking twisted situation.
That's some weird stuff. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going, please.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, but, now I'm almost 40 and, I'm happy to say that, I've gotten, I think football kept me from growing into being who I am now, because of the mindset that I was in the years that I was playing, from 20, I was playing football from when I was 7 till I was 31. And so, I feel like I'm just starting to live the life of who I was meant to be, and I'm grateful for that. And, it's exciting, learning new stuff. It's that's what keeps me going. And but yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say the self-doubts and all that, especially. And the story, Rob. I didn't get recruited out of high school. Everybody's saying you're not going to make it, and so all of that manifests or builds up into some kind of emotion, whether it's hate, self-hatred, self-doubt, all that. And, finding a release was the healthy ones were like working out. And I think that's something that I heard a lot, not too long ago was, in regards to mental health, when you're going through stuff, like if you're angry, go work out, go get that release. If you're sad, go talk to somebody, go get it out, verbalize it, and actually deal with it. Because if you don't, it's going to manifest, or it's going to show its face on the road if you don't deal with it.
Yeah. So Marzi, I love your smile, brother. I love it. And thank you so much for being here. You and I are a similar age. I think I'm a few years older than you, but all that being said, you know what I'm talking about when you talk about the latchkey kid era, that it's a world that doesn't exist for the most part anymore. I'm curious, were you one of those loner kids? Were you left to your own devices at a young age, or did you just have a perfect idyllic family life?
I was initially. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was initially smiling because Love was so right about it. Get out of your head. Yeah. I was smiling and sarcasm in regards to myself because I've been living in my head.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn how to not be there. I've been a prisoner in it because as far as being alone, I was born in Iran and I lived there before there was any kind of revolution or this and that. It was like a normal thing. And then prior to it, my dad moved us here to Texas when I was about 9.
Wow.
And my parents divorced prior to me even learning how to speak English. So I was brought up out here, man. Super alone, you know what I mean? Till we got a TV and Tom and Jerry and Sanford and Son became my best friends.
Yeah.
But I learned how to, the radio, man, music, and that was the only thing. I didn't have any friends, and I saved up and got an acoustic guitar, and I was I would say organic, But as far as being alone, yeah, dude, all throughout my life, big giant spurts of it.
Yeah. And I wonder, before we move forward, I wonder how much it is the artist mentality, right? I mean, so Lofa's sort of the one outlier here today. The rest of us are all musicians, but we're all in the entertainment space, and for lack of a better way to put it, we're all in the look at me place, right? The things we do, we're seeking public attention. And I wonder how much of that is built into us, from, not getting religious here, but from creation, how we're made in the womb, how much of it is built into our DNA versus how much of it is behavior learned from, again, a lack thing or maybe how our parents treat us, Laws, you're my sweethearted friend. Do you hear anything in this that triggers something for you? Any experiences that you had growing up that maybe led you to a place of frustration at times or significant frustration as an adult?
Yeah, I mean, going back to sort of having anger and stuff, when I was a lot younger, I'm 36 now, but when I was a lot younger, I sort of made bad decisions and I picked up bad habits in life. And at the time, I was using them bad habits because I was angry at everything around me because it wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. And now I've grown up, I'm sort of not angry, but I'm now frustrated at the anger I had when I was younger because I didn't sort of open my eyes to what potentially was around me and have the things I have now, but at a younger age and hone them. So I think as I've grown up, I've learned to sort of transfer that anger and that frustration and sort of use it in a positive way. As when I was younger, I was naive to it. But what you were saying then about sort of growing up and having things affect us, when I was a young kid, and it's a very cliche story, when I was a young kid, I was the small kid, sort of quite geeky, with a group of friends, and I'd sit at the back and I wouldn't say boo to a goose. And then as I grew up, I kind of I had a really good upbringing, no questions, it was fine. sort of, no struggles really. So I'm blessed for that. But then I sort of kind of rebelled and got the tattoos and got the piercings and got into the rock music. And then when I had the tattoos and piercings, it forced me to become, because people would now come and talk to me. I stretched my ears and people were inquisitive about it. So people would come to me and I had to blossom into this person that would talk to people. So it made me grow up. And then I think that in turn made me realize that actually I shouldn't have these bad habits and use my, my sort of art or creativity in a more productive way and not waste it.
Yeah. I'm glad you're able to come with something positive from the experience, right? Because so many people allow themselves to become overwhelmed by it. They let it own them, and then it becomes an excuse. So that way you can stay there, right? I mean, I'll be the first person to admit, and this completely sucks, guys, but I admit that of all the bad things that have happened to me in my life, I've done them to myself. I mean, with maybe one exception. I mean, I had a very bad thing happen to me Christmas of 1987 where I was actually sexually assaulted. And I never, ever thought about that sexual assault ever as an assault. I thought of it as a goofy moment that occurred in my life. But the reality is I was sexually assaulted. And I joked about it for like 30 years. And it wasn't until like 2 years ago that I finally went, holy shit, I was raped. You know what I mean? So in other words, I'm an idiot. I'm not talking about it out loud, but I went through this whole life experience. And instead of learning like Laws did, I just held it in. I would tell a few people about it, but it's not like, I never got any catharsis. I never got over it. I just let it fester like mold sitting under my skin, and the reason we're doing these now is because guys like us, we can finally break free and stand up and say, hey, these things happen to us. I'm a decent guy underneath all of it. And I'm worth loving, but I struggle greatly with imposter syndrome of being worth or valuable in any way. It's a really hard thing to exist. So I need your help.
To your defense, man, I don't think that you should put that on yourself as something that you failed to do. Like, people who go through stuff like that shouldn't feel like there's a deadline for them to get over something or move on from something like that. I think it's like you could have taken 50 years to, to process that, and that's still completely fine. I think that, to say that, you just let it fester, I don't think that's really the thing, because it was obviously someone else's fault who inflicted that. It was someone who did that to you. So I think that, if it took you 30 years to get through it, then it's better than taking 80 years or 70 years or something. But the fact that you even got through it is a victory, just to put it simply.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the way you put it too, Josh. Dimitri, I want to say this to you. Thank you, because I know this is not your comfortable language, but thank you for being here, calling all the way in from Ukraine. You're literally living in the middle of a war zone, and you're taking time to be here today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, guys, it's terrible situation right now, because I'm trying to volunteer in helping people, helping refugees, helping everybody, just thanks to our fans from all over the world, from America, thanks to Europe for your support, for your words, for everything. And we have money, and we buy food, medicine, everything they need. And yesterday I've been in Bucha and Irpin. It's the north part of Kiev region, and they don't have gas, electricity, water. Just imagine in 21st century. About 10 years ago, we had a Europe football championship in Ukraine, in Donbass, in Kiev, and Lviv, and Kharkov, and whole world just came. And in 10 years, we have not in 10 years, in 3 years. In 2014, we had this war. And I think my anger, it's linked every time it's to injustice, you know, because I've been in 2014 in Donetsk when war started, and I have my pregnant wife, and we had to leave. We thought we're leaving for 2 weeks, you know. We hope that maybe it's 1 month and it will finish everything, but then we understood that it's for long. Then we came to Donetsk through these checkpoints with our soldiers with the guns, through the strikes, through the everything, guys. And I felt, you know, uncomfortable, because when I was young, I was like, it was okay. I was happy, you know. I used to be in a great country with great people, with great culture. Everything was, to be honest, everything was not bad. It was good. And
Oh no. This is the hard part
everywhere, you know what's happened.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. And we just needed visas, but it's not a problem for us. And then in 2014, this war just started, and I understand something wrong with that, because I've been in Donetsk part in the Donetsk region, and it was like part was occupied by Russian army, but without chevrons. I don't know how it's called. You know, nobody understand who they are.
Okay.
And still the political situation that when I cross the checkpoints with the guitar, you know, I tried to touring with my band to Ukraine, to Europe, and it was I even got in troubles 2 times because when we crossed these checkpoints, started strikes, and we just lying on the ground. And I understood that it's terrible situation, because from the one side people killed each other, and from another side the trains with coal just cross without any problems. So this is about money, you know. Somebody fight and somebody just make money with this war, on this war, selling guns, selling any stuff. And I thought it's a big problem. And when I came to Kiev, we decided just to go
okay.
to Kiev,
Mhm.
move to Kiev. Yeah, and with my daughter, she was at 3 months already, and with my wife, and with my band, and we started touring. We started playing gigs, a lot of festivals, and I felt like people can understand what's happening. They forgot about war. They forgot about people from their own country, from east part of this country. They just didn't care about that. Every gig I tried to explain them, guys, we have to stop this war. We have to stop this war everywhere in Ukraine. And when we started touring in Europe, people like more understand me and more trying to help than people from my country, you know.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's impossible. And once after we won this like festival, this competition, rock competition in Berlin, suddenly we started to be like famous band in Ukraine. We even played on the stadium for 80,000 people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Eight four zeros, yeah.
yeah. The
People,
Olympic Stadium.
huge.
Yeah,
Olympic Stadium, right?
yeah.
And when we have one really good band, it's a rock band, but they sing in Ukrainian. They famous, only famous big band in Ukraine. They invite us, and when we played the show, again I told them, guys, it's a war in Donbass. We have to stop this. And just imagine, it was like okay, nobody care.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
And then I tried to escape with alcohol, maybe with some, I don't know, a lot of stuff, but not like drugs or something like that. But my feelings.
Mhm.
I try to understand something wrong with that, with people, maybe with, I didn't know, and I tried to and I started to crash my guitars, and I have a conversation with the guy, with another rock musician, and he asked me, Dima, why you're crashing guitars on your shows? Then I just playing something weird I didn't know, and after I realized that maybe I have an anger inside,
Sure.
and I try to, when I played this show sometimes on the big festival, I realized that people didn't understand about what about my song, because they don't try to learn English. They try to like even read these lyrics, or they just don't want to think about that. And the best way which I chose, it was like a crashing guitars sometimes. But after I realized that if I do this every time, I just like my guitar just finished.
It becomes expensive.
Yeah, it's too expensive. Then I don't know. I realized then we have to like put this anger. I have to put this anger in lyrics, in the music, and like Lofas just said, that just simply go to gym. Tomorrow I will go to gym, because it's impossible to live in this situation with like good feelings,
Yeah.
Or maybe I speak with my friends, but last 2 months, I just speak with my family, with Yana, with my wife. She's in Portugal right now, and every time she really helped me. This is the first the first human who really helped me every time, and I really thankful to her.
Yeah.
So guys, yeah, it's like that. Sorry, I'm a bit slow because
No, it's good.
every time when you speak in English, it's not like common for me. I I need
Don't
practice more
apologize,
every
bro.
time.
Yeah,
don't worry about
guys.
it.
Man.
Every time when I go to tour in Europe, you need like first day you're really slow. Second day you're really slow, but next 2 weeks you're gonna like speak
Yeah.
like a perfect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know what? After you shared that too, man, I'm telling you, it reminds probably all of us, certainly me, that I have very little to complain about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
You know,
No, guys, it's like I'm complaining. For example, it's an easy example on this situation in Ukraine. Last 2 months, I've been totally alone. Of course, I had the conversation with the people, with volunteers, with the refugees, with guys. Every time it's new people, really good people, not good people. You know, it's a different kind of people. But when I came home, I felt emptiness. You know, I felt myself alone. I just sat on the table like that, and I thought, come on, I don't want to live in this place. I mean, in this flat or in this house. It was different houses, you know. But that house was with really good atmosphere, you know. It was really good condition. I mean, this house. I have every time food. I have every time water, electricity, not bad internet, and like mattress or bed. But I still have a complaint for I'm lonely, I'm bad, you know. But just imagine people in Donbass or north of Kiev, you know. It's the same to me. I can complain because I'm alive. I have a food, I have a good conversation with you, I have electricity, I have mobile phone, I have my dog, I have my family in Portugal, I have my guitars, you know, I have hands, I can speak English.
Yeah.
So don't worry, each of us have a different problems, and if you have your problems, it doesn't mean that your problems not important, you know. It's important too, but it's a different levels, you know.
Yeah. You're amazing, dude. You're
Totally.
You blow me away. I love so much. And you know, it reminds me, I have a friend from El Salvador who worked for the government here years ago. And one day he came over to my house, and it was right after I had sold my company. So I was feeling bad for myself. It's just so pathetic because I sold the company and I made money, right? And I'm like, oh man, my life sucks and I feel so bad. And I was complaining and complaining and complaining. And he walks up. This is for real, guys. He walks over to my refrigerator. He opens it up and he goes, "Senor, you have like 40 hot sauces. Shut the fuck up."
I think I need that tattooed somewhere on my body.
Yeah. And it's so true. So I just honor you, Dima. I mean, thank you so much for being here. But I so now I have to ask Sam the question, because he wrote one of my favorite songs of the last 24 months. Of an incredible piece of music called Quiet Kid. And and it's about bullying and about aggression and about being just absolutely mind-blowingly upset. And so Sam, if you would actually, can you tell a little bit about tell a little story maybe about that song and why you wrote it, and are you the Quiet Kid?
Yeah, 100%. So, growing up, I've always been super introverted and just like, the quiet kid at school. I didn't have many friends when I was growing up, and just always used to be, just feel like a loneliness, and I just wanted attention, and I just wasn't able to get it, you know. And as I got older, I just got a bit more confident and stuff, but I had those feelings of when I was a kid, and like, just resentment just slowly building up and up and up. And then when it came around to writing that song, our drummer wrote that song, Ryan, fucking fantastic songwriter, by the way. Big up Ryan. Yeah. He put Quiet Kid together very quickly. And as soon as I heard the instrumental, I was like, I got to like really come in hard with some like lyrics here, like something that's like super like packs a punch. And I just thought about all those like feelings and just like anger that I built up from just, rejection and just not being listened to, and just felt like my opinion didn't matter, you know, and I just thought, you know, I'm going to give a voice to the voiceless in this song. And I wrote all the lyrics and I was like, cool, track the song. We didn't actually know what we wanted to call it. And I was like, why don't we just call it Quiet Kid? And then for some reason, I thought the guys were going to be like, oh, I don't know, but all of them loved it. And like, I'm super stoked with how it turned out. And
Yeah.
this song itself is like, it's a story. I would say, yeah, I am the quiet kid for sure. But I feel like everyone can always relate to being the quiet kid at some point in their lives, especially in the metal community. We always like band together in that kind of like tight little misfit group that we are. But like, I really wanted to kind of just hone in on that aggression and just take it to the extremes, like the quiet kid that gets pushed off the edge one day just goes berserk. And I feel like that track kind of encompasses that aggression and rage. And like, I'm super stoked with how it's done, and I'm really happy that people have been able to pull something from it and relate to it as well.
Yeah. It's an incredible piece of music. It's violent and cathartic all at the
Yeah.
same time. I love it. So, you know, hands over fist. You know, it's so funny because as you guys are all talking, I'm looking at each of you, and I look at Christian, for example, and I know who he is as a person because we've known each other for quite some time. And what I love is Christian has hidden his frustrations inside of this sort of lovely, slow burn, epic, progressive rock, right? Sam has put it through the grinder, and he's completely personalized all of his behaviors into one sort of distilled piece of music. And granted, it flows over to the rest. Dima has his music and his feelings, but everything is passed through this sort of dreamy filter where there's hope, right? And I'm not saying the other guys you guys aren't positive. That's not what I mean, but there's this different way of processing that anger and dispensing it in this sort of Pink Floyd dreamscape, right? And then you've got Laws,
Yeah.
right? Who's you know, part of this band where he's the anger and the emotion and the throttle, right, in this incredibly intense, I don't even want to call it metalcore because it's not fair to it. It's just this wonderful mix of pop and anger, and it's just gorgeous stuff. And then you got Lofa, of course, who beats the shit out of people on the field and now saves lives, which is an awesome thing. And CBD, God bless you, man, because that's amazing stuff. You got Marzi, who literally destroys his guitars on stage with his fingers because he's probably the biggest, heaviest, chunkiest, monstrous metal beast there is. He's sitting right in front of you. This guy's a god. I don't know if anybody knows that he was a freaking god. When you guys came to Seattle, I stood in front of you and just my mouth was like, the whole time. But now I'm going to end on Josh, Mr. Sugar Spine over here. Because
It's a cute
Josh,
name, hey.
Yeah, Josh, I've gotten to know in the last couple of months. Josh and I have become friends. And here's a guy who's probably just released the angriest album in the world.
I don't know, man. Iowa by Slipknot's pretty much like the angriest thing I can find.
But you and I had a conversation about how you grew up in an idealized household, a really nice home, a very intimate family structure, and here you are burning the midnight oil with aggression through your album, and I'm wondering how that happens. Why does it happen?
Yeah, it's definitely something that you can't just put a finger on straight away. There's, whether it's internalized feelings of, the issues with self-image that, of course, we've all, recently spoke about, and could be that. It could be certain experiences that you've had which aren't really that bad, so to speak, in comparison with everything else.
Right.
But then your inability to internalize them or resolve them actually ends up making them turn out to be more malignant than they actually are. So, for instance, I was never really a violent kid. I was never very physical either. So I would never get into fights. I kind of didn't need to. And I think the way that I did that most of the time was just by being an entertaining person or just trying to make people laugh or trying to be the funny person. But with that being said, I mean, I always felt that there was someone who was going to be funnier, therefore cooler, more interesting out there. And with that came a little bit of jealousy, and there's always like this little feeling of anger that comes with jealousy in a way. Because you're angry at that person because they're doing something or being something that you're like not able to do or be. And I guess, you know, when I got to high school, there was a bit of bullying towards me. Like, wasn't too gnarly, but it was definitely to the point where I wasn't a popular kid, and I didn't feel like I felt like if my voice was in a group, it was definitely not heard. And I think that's where metal definitely came into, you know, a really kind of useful position in my life, where I could use that to be louder. I could use it to be more in your face and put a message across. And I think one thing that helped me a lot was like writing lyrics is really fun, and it's really expressive too. And it also helps me to kind of resolve the issues that I try to internalize. So when kids would get physical with me and try and, you know, get something out of me, I wouldn't so much freeze, but I would kind of just do my best to not fight, because I just don't like fighting. I'm just not a very conflicting person. I played like AFL, so it's kind of like football, but it's more about kicking the ball more than it is like actually about tackling and stuff. And that was kind of like a physical thing for me. But at the same time, even then I was like, this is not how I want to get rid of my anger. Like, I didn't look for kids to beat up on the field. And I wasn't big either. Like, I'm not a big dude. I'm pretty skinny. So I didn't exactly have much, you know, muscle to throw around. But with metal, when I was writing lyrics, especially when I was in my teens, it was very nihilistic and it was very misanthropic, and all the anti stuff and all the aggressive stuff. And I guess that kind of helps in a way. But you also, if you write that stuff, you kind of start to believe it as well, more than you want to. And like, you know, certain things you would write, and then, you know, in the time that you're writing it, you're like, yeah, that's like exactly how I feel. And then like maybe 3 or 4 years later, you're reading it and going, you know, that was being a bit dramatic potentially. But I guess one thing that you do is as you write more, and also as you write lyrics, at least for different genres, you can learn to express yourself in different ways. So when I was writing acoustic stuff, I'd write a lot more poetically and a lot more beautiful wording. But then when I'd write metal, it'd just be the most, you know, abrasive, aggressive, direct kind of stuff I could write. And I think just having music in my life and having different genres was really a way that I was able to kind of resolve the issues of self-image that I had, or even just the frustrations or the anger I had towards people, or even towards the way the world was. When my uncle died when I was younger, I was pretty unhappy about a lot of stuff, and that was definitely something that, you know, I kind of took quite hard. And I was sort of religious back then as well, but then I started to kind of lose faith around that time, because I was, you know, looking for guidance in a way to deal with it. And I never really got anything out of that. So that's where music kind of came in even more. And and look, metal's so cathartic. I mean, people say, oh, I just want to scream. It's like, yeah, do metal. You can scream and you can feel great. Like, that's the whole thing. So whether it's playing guitar or screaming your head off, I think, you know, metal has just been so good for me in terms of being a cathartic avenue to get rid of anything, really.
Yeah. It's funny because we're all just nodding. Yep, metal. That's the way to go.
Totally.
The funny thing is I've discovered as I've gotten older that my sensibilities have changed to much more intense. Like, I mean, to be very frank with you, Sam, I wouldn't have listened to Sunfall 10 years ago. I wouldn't have understood it. It wouldn't have spoken to me. You know, in fact, I think even when I talked to Oliver, who is Sam's guitar player, I said it's lovely music, and it's so not lovely. But there's
lovely.
But there's something that is lovely in the sentiment of it, because it's pure. And so I was thinking, like, you know, here we are sitting here, guys. Here's eight humans who now have somehow become connected through this moment. And, you know, so much of anger for me, and again, I don't want to speak to you guys about this, meaning I don't want to speak for you. To me, anger is such a habit. For me, it's a habit. It's a behavior I've chosen to exhibit for whatever reason. I've through my failures, through whatever, I've allowed it a foothold in my life, and I need to overcome it. And as I was talking to my best friend about this about 6-7 months ago, I was complaining about how my life had not gone how I wanted it to go, right? I'm in the middle of a midlife crisis, guys, so sue me. But I was talking about my identity in the world and my worth and my value. And so I wonder if this hits you guys the same. His name is Rick that I was talking to. And I said, Rick, I said, you know what I'm seeking? I just want to know the age-old question. I want to know, what's my purpose? And he said, Rob, you don't know what your purpose is? Like, how do you not know? You're 55 years old. You're supposed to know now kind of what you're about. And I said, I don't know. I said, I always thought I was going to be, this, a lifetime drummer, a well-known session musician, somebody. I thought I was going to be famous when I was a kid, all those little things, And he said, your purpose is only one thing. It's people. It's the impact and the love and the inspiration that you provide through your truth telling, through your through that clarity that you speak out to others, because our identity shouldn't be found in who we are, into the things that we do. Meaning, like, let's say Marzi's guitar player, killer guitar player, but his identity shouldn't be Marzi, the killer guitar player. He should be Marzi Montazeri, the badass human who I know and admire, and has the courage to come on something like this and share a testimony, if you will, about his life and how we can overcome something that we might feel similar, if that makes sense. So does anybody have a takeaway? How do you undo what's been done to you by you, Who wants to start? I'm not going to volunteer. Somebody's got to pick it. Come on now. I'm gonna pick you now, God damn it.
Well, so I'll say something. It's really hard when you sort of do make mistakes or something. I found this not so long ago. I was chatting to someone about something, and it's really hard that when you have done things, whether it be bad decisions or bad habits, and they've been a public thing, so people around you have allowed them to be, people have seen them happen. Mm-hmm. It's harder for them to forget it than it is for you to move on from it. And I had this the other day that I was, similar to Josh, I've had a great upbringing. I've never been an angry person. I've never been a fighter. But through making mistakes and doing bad habits and stuff like this, I had this internal sort of frustration, and it came out in sort of like being hot-headed and hot-tempered. Now, not so long ago, someone else was being an idiot, and I got hot-headed about it, not because of my bad habits or the way I was, because they had done something wrong and it frustrated me. And so, like anyone, I got heated about it. And the first thing that happened, no one turned to the person that done something wrong and said, you've done something wrong. Everyone turned around and went, Lodge, you need to chill out. You're such a hot-headed person. And that kind of annoyed me, that it was instantly the way I used to act. And even though that everyone's seen me change, everyone turns to that before they actually turn to what they know is wrong. Yeah. Everyone had seen that the thing that person had done was wrong, but it's easier to just pass the buck and go, well, you're known as a hot-headed person, so you're the person in the wrong. Yeah. And it really annoys me.
Yeah, boy, that's common. I saw Marzi bounce his head 90 times. So yeah, what's your take on that, buddy?
Man, I mean, in truth, everyone that's spoken so far, everyone's has resonated with me in such a grand way. Dimitri, especially because I'm a refugee kid, so I've experienced what he's going through, and it's like the magnitude of he can't explain what he's going through right now. So that whole thing, and I'm older, so like everything Josh was saying, and like Law was saying, and I was like a somber child, not very angry at all, didn't like fighting and stuff like that either. But from the age of 12, I was getting locked up in county jail and going to juvie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to deal with my anger. You know, I had like a regular life and it was just vanished, man. And so if you looked at me funny, I was going to fight you. You know, and I didn't realize at that point, you know, my knee-jerk reactions to it was how weak I really was. But nobody was there to, you know, channel me in the right direction. I had to find all this shit out by myself. And then when I did find out, you know, I start channeling that anger. So what I hear now is just like this thing, you know, which we're creatures that deal with emotions, and anger being one giant, enormous one. We have managed to channel this thing and be creative with it, and through sports, through discipline of the sports, and discipline in musicianship, and you know, writing songs finally to like I can relate with Sam because on Heaviest Texas I wrote a song called "To Keep a Promise," and that was me moving here in America, starting playing guitar. That song was about that. I made a promise when I was a little kid, man. When I picked it up around 12 to keep integrity in what I did throughout my life, and that song was about that. So we channel that anger and then give life to it through music and this and that, and that in the end to me it's like medicine, you know. And then it goes on to the next emotion, to the next thing, like you were saying, Josh, with acoustic music, this comes out, you know, because you know, I get dubbed as like heavy metal dude, you know, but dude, I play ambient music because I'm like a big Floyd head, and I love
Nice.
You'll love Synoptic
music
then.
with soundscapes. It's just atmospheric stuff, you know. I like it all, man. You know, it's kind of like Billy Cobham was saying. Like I read a quote from him from Return to Forever. He was like, "You listen to one kind of music. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Your music will be kind of like it'll sound like it'll be like a stick. If you listen to everything, it'll blossom like a flower." And that's basically all I see here is just like, you know, different flowers in the same field, you know, and which in the end, to me, we're all connected. Different parts of the world, same part of the same giant organism. It's like you know, same exact thing, you know. So I don't see a separation. I think it's unique if someone's from somewhere else and they speak something different and they bring this killer cuisine and art and, you know, their culture. It's like, it's colorful. For me, it's colorful and beautiful. You know, in the end, human nature is beautiful. But, you know, the ones in power, you know, we know what they do. And so, unfortunately, trickles down to what we all go through, which, you know, it's humbling to hear all the stories. And then yet at the same time, like I said, it resonates with me. And I'm like, because I've gone through it in such a way, the similarities makes you feel like you're the same. And when you're the same, you know, you don't see a separation. It's kind of hard to go like hurt your brother, you know. It's hard for me to go, you know, do something like that. I think when you look at somebody, when you're sold the idea of somebody being different than you, that it's easy to go drop a bomb on them. And that's not, you know, and those people are, you know, the evil that they do. And my heart's with you, Dimitri, and all the noble things you're doing right now. Man, I can't imagine being apart from family. You know, I came as a young child to America, and that shit happened and then I was separated from a mom and brother. You know, they couldn't come to America, so that was like a 10-year gap. You know, and the trauma that you go through. You know, nobody even addresses it. You don't even know it's trauma. You're like, hey, you know, smiling. Like, I remember the first time I got robbed with my dad. They had like a gun to my head here in Houston. Random shit, you know. But I had like a smile on my face because you're shocked, man. You know, you don't even deal with it. You know, and these pile on and pile on and pile on. And it's good that we're here, you know, because the remedy, the medicine for it being art, being music. I mean, you deal with your traumas in the end. And so, you know, Rob, you know, hearing yourself speak and stuff like that, I think, and, you know, we before we're born, we're like, sign up for all this shit. So, you know, and I was talking about being lonely. You know what I did when I was lonely, man? I never went out high school, junior high. I never had friends and shit. I played this guitar and there wasn't the internet. I didn't even know how to tune it.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that's like the most beautiful thing because it doesn't matter if you're schooled or not, if you do something after a while, like you become the instrument. Like you start like watching this thing happen. Like you're like just witnessing it. That high I can't even explain. And I'm sure every single one of us here have experienced it. That's the beauty of like life. That's that beauty. Like, something just happens, man. And you're like in tune, and then you're like an instrument, and you just like like your energy is allowing this other energy to like happen. And
yeah. Man, Marzi, so before I can see everybody kind of wants to jump in on that, so I'm going to let you. But I got to say this. You might have just saved my bacon just now, Marzi, because I was thinking about what you were saying, and you were talking about how, when you had those moments of silence or whatever was going on in your life, you had that guitar. You had that guitar. And it became transcendent after a while. You play it so much, you get outside of your body. When I interviewed Billy Cobham last year, he said the same thing. He said, I'm on stage, and the next thing I know, we're floating up to the balcony. And I'm behind my kit, and I don't know how I'm watching us from the balcony, like some out-of-body experience. And I look at you guys, and I know every one of you has a massive amount of joy when you sit behind your instrument or you're on stage. And there's something so pure, and it's the moment where you really get to be who you've been made to be. Because I know every time I turn on Instagram, Lofa's lifting weights. So the reality is our catharsis, our ability to keep ourselves pure and where we're supposed to be is through that instrument, whatever that instrument is that has been placed in our lives that we've fallen in love with. You know what I mean? And it occurs to me now that for like 2 weeks now, I've been talking about how I got to get behind my kit again and really start playing again. And this is you just saying that, Marzi, was just the reminder of, maybe I'm pissed off all the time because I'm not giving myself the pleasure of the very thing I'm really good at. You
just got to do it, man.
Yeah.
You just got to like go like throw some water in your face or something, like do something, just get out the head, just go outside, look at this and come back and just go play whatever it is. Play your drums, man. Just play it.
Yeah.
Like just be in the act of doing. I think it would disallow it kills the resistance, because when you sit there, it's just resistance, man. It's like stagnated water. Water sits there, man, if it doesn't move.
Wow, that's great.
You got to make that water move, man. You got.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Go ahead, Assemble.
Some special person here. I'm just very humbled to be in this amongst you guys and listening to your stories. It's like very, 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 very inspirational, inspiring to be in spirit. It's timeless. Like time just like it doesn't even exist anymore. Kind of like when you're jamming,
Yeah.
And then another thing, if I may, I'll be the last thing I'll say is and it's not all flowers and butterflies, man.
That's for damn sure.
Practicing the jamming and stuff like that. It's the most revealing, telling mirror there is, and it's like it tells you what it don't lie to you, and it's not beautiful, dude. It's very frustrating. That in itself is frightening, but at least there's a reflecting point to like at least to like to not judge yourself, but to actually like have him like be better than you were yesterday.
Right.
Not better than anybody else. You're not
That's
here.
not the point. Yeah.
Not here like to be you. That's what's unique about each one of us. It's just to be better than me.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sam, then I have to ask. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dima. Go ahead.
I think because without mistakes, you can just grow up. You have to make mixed mistakes every time. I'm telling myself this. And for example, I made a lot of mistakes, but I tried to forgive it to myself because I understand without that, I never be myself like I am right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes I try to sleep. I can sleep till 4 in the morning or 5 or woke up and try to thinking about like my mistakes and thinking about this every time. And maybe 2 years ago, I heard this guy, his name Sadhguru, maybe you know, and he said one thing that, come on, when you go to sleep, you have to say yourself, tell yourself that your brain needs you tomorrow. Then give him the rest for tomorrow and just enough for today, and go sleep. And every time I try to tell this to myself, and it helps.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, but every time I'm telling myself, Dima, enough, just sleep. And remember that that guy. I don't know how it works. Maybe he's genius. I don't know.
When you find out,
But-
please tell me.
yeah,
exactly.
it's maybe about me. But last week I met finally with my friend. He's a sound engineer and manager of Ginger Band. Maybe you know them. And
wow.
and we just spoke, had a conversation about this situation in Bucha when Russian soldiers killed a lot of civils. And I asked him, Sasha, what you think? Why they made this? How is it possible to live with that next whole life? What's happening with their brains? He told me, Dima, you know, it's like a human problem for each of us. If we did something wrong, we try to make it even worse. It's like inside of us, like animal instinct or something like that. And we have to, it's like a habit. We have to cut this. We have to like get rid of this habit. Every time we have to think that because we are humans. I don't know, maybe like that.
Wow. Wow.
If you understood what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think about, well, I mean, look, the reality, in my reality, everybody I know, including myself, we tend to go back and sort of torture ourselves, right? There's this really strange thing that happens to people that go through bouts of depression. And I feel like I can speak about this now because I actually experienced real true depression back in 2018 for the first time in my life, and not since then, but I know what it feels like. I remember standing in my shower, and I was at the lowest of the low, and I was standing there, water running down me, and I'm just like, oh God. And I was like praying, like, God, just kill me. Like I don't have the courage to kill myself. Just kill me. Please just kill me. I got great life insurance for my wife and my kids. I don't belong here anymore. And of course, here I am. He
Yeah.
didn't listen to me, but
I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you
same.
know what? I remember thinking, and this is how sort of pathetic and trite it is that I remember thinking, I'll show them. They'll see how much they miss me. Right? It's like no. There's times like that where you feel like you're alone and nobody sees that you're alone. And so if you can end it, then maybe you'll be gone, but you'll be able to show them that you mattered and that you were important. I mean, that's how pathetic I was. That's where I was at. And there's something about this feeling of wanting to be right so bad that we'll harm ourselves over and over again. So at least we get some attention, because that some attention is better than no attention.
Yep.
Josh?
Yeah, look, I when I was 18 or 19, I worked with an organization called Beyond Blue, and it's like it's a foundation that kind of raises awareness for anxiety and depression. And they kind of flew me around parts of Australia, out to places like Dubbo, so it's like quite west in New South Wales. So it's a pretty quiet place out there. And yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you hear from people. You know, when I spoke to the schools there, so I would stand up in front of a bunch of kids. Sometimes they were like 9 or 10 years old. Other times they were like 17 or 16. And I would tell them my story, and I tell them about my friend who was suicidal, and, you know, talked about all the kind of mental processes that he went through, which sound very much like yours. Is kind of like, you know, everyone would be so much better off if I weren't around, or man, this person, if they knew how much, you know, I was valuable to their life, yeah, if I died, then they'd see. Like, there's all these rationalizations for wanting to die. And a lot of kids, when I finished the talks, they'd come up to me and they'd tell me some pretty really haunting stuff. Like, you know, some kid came up to me and said, I didn't know that other people felt like this. And they'd come up to me like privately as well, because they didn't want anyone else to know, because they didn't think that it was something that would exist outside of their own brain. So you'd hear stuff like, you know, yeah, I wanted to feel that way as well. I even had someone come up to me and, you know, talk about their friend. They said, my friend killed themselves like a month ago, and the last thing I said to them was that I never want to see you again. And, you know, there are kids who are like 13 or 14 years old and have to live with that. Sorry, did I just...
No, we're here.
Oh, sorry, my phone just freaked out. Yeah, you know, these kids who are 13 and 14 have to live with telling their friends that never want to see them again, and those friends are dead. And it's such a heavy experience to take on, and then just to live with that yourself is such a burden that, of course, yeah, dying or even just, you know, removing yourself from your current place is just... It just feels like the only way. So yeah, I guess I wanted to say that I can resonate with those thoughts very deeply, and they're not, I wouldn't say that they're pathetic. They're just a very desperate cry for resolve.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Oh boy. So, I mean, look, there's 10 million questions I could ask you about all this, but I know we have to sort of kind of bring it to a close here shortly. You know, listening to all you guys today, and then of course, you know, Marzi's response earlier, he had said, you know, I love how everybody has a different story and they're all, you know, impactful. Everybody's POV matters. And, you know, going back to what I said a little while ago about my friend telling me that, you know, our purpose is people. It's about the interaction of others. I look at you guys, I look at these 7 souls, you know, staring at me right now. And this is what we need. This is what we need. I'm not saying, you know, like I'm the answer to your problems, but at least for me, this immediacy of these other guys sharing their hearts and their guts and their experiences and their fears and their hopes for their future. You know, like Dima's situation, I want him to be reunited with his wife and his child more than anything, you know. But I love that we're all here and we're here in service to the greater good. But it's beautiful because we're here in service to each other, because we all have static. And somehow we get through every day and we put some of it into our songs or into, you know, producing a product, whatever we're doing. But I can't imagine my life without you guys. You guys make me better. And to that, I have to say it. I have to get cheesy. I have to do it. I love you guys.
Love you too, man.
I really do. I mean, like so I'm gonna embarrass
You're gonna make me cry.
But you know, so I discovered Dimitri through a promotions company a year ago, and fell in love with the band immediately, and went online and did all the cheesy things a fan does, and be like, "Oh my God, you guys are so good," or whatever, right? And then the next thing I know, we're connected and we're talking, and even though we've never met in person, which is actually all of you guys, we've met over the internet, and we've forged relationships that can never be taken away from us. So if there's any one thing I would encourage every listener to do today, and everybody who's participating today, is don't put yourself back in a practice room by yourself. I mean, on occasion, sure, you're writing songs or you're lifting weights or whatever you're doing to keep yourself at your best, at your peak, but bring your brothers with you. Bring them in your mind. Remember this moment that you've got these smiles, people looking at you who are just grateful you exist. Because I love so much. If there's any one thing I can take away from this is I love, guys, that you are here in service to the greater good, but you're here for me. And that's a lovely, lovely thing. And this will remain with me for days. So thank you. This is incredible stuff.
Thank
Yeah,
you
all
for
this-
having us.
Thank you
man.
very much.
Thank you.
May I ask Sam a question?
Please.
So, hey, buddy. So we're talking about anger, of course, and its detrimental effects and all its causes and its origins, all that kind of stuff. With Quiet Kid, of course, it almost sounds like the soundtrack to this panel. It's deeply fueled by anger and a resentment and that kind of stuff. It's really just almost like a hatred for the very existence of oneself. And I kind of just wanted to ask, and forgive me if it's a little bit too heavy, if there are children or even like young people who feel like that and who are really kind of embodying that experience that you've written so eloquently, what would be one thing that you would do to either guide them or help them, or just help them to understand that they do exist as a person who can do good?
I just try and let them know that like there are good people in the world, and you're going to find people that are like-minded and like you that will listen and will share your same thoughts and beliefs. Like when you feel like an outcast, it's really difficult to make friends. Like I find it very hard to suddenly kind of get into a friend group because you're like, oh, I don't feel like I'm going to fit in. And if you just have to find that one person, and there's like a domino effect, and you start finding all these other people. And I just would really hone in on trying to find that kid's group, that group's person, and like how they could try and find those people and make themselves better. Because like at the end of the day, like that song goes crazy, goes super violent at the end and stuff. But like I would try and want people to not go that route, and the Quiet Kids don't become those people that are super aggressive and violent. Like they can find the people that they can connect with and get along with them, and they can let go of those kind of resentments. So I'd try and put them on that path to meeting like-minded people and knowing that they have a voice.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for asking that question, Josh. You stole the perfect amount of thunder there. That's a beautiful thing, because that's what we need, man. No, don't apologize. It's beautiful. I wanted to ask that question earlier, but I kind of screwed up. So thank you for saving me.
It's all good. No, I just
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought it was kind of fitting. There's just a lot of stuff like that going on at the moment, so I thought it was just quite relevant. I think a lot of people feel quite nihilistic at the moment with COVID and all the economic crises that are kind of happening, and of course, I mean, Dima in Ukraine. It's one thing, if I may say so, if it's one thing to be dealing with that, but then to be so graceful in your approach to it is seriously so humbling. It reminds me of a person called Yeon-mi Park, and she wrote a book called In Order to Survive. It's about her defecting from North to South Korea and then making her way to the US. And the story's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And it books don't really make me cry, and I read a lot of fucked up shit. But this one really kind of made me quite emotional. But the thing that got me was at the end, she said, but other people have it worse than me. And that just killed me, and I feel like the same with you, Dima, because you just you're in quite a terrible and difficult situation, but you just say, but I've got a bed, I've got my dog, it's such a beautiful attitude. And I just wish that I could have half that gracefulness. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I do want to lay one thing on about that too, Josh, in regards to Dima. I know he's not asking for it, and I don't want to embarrass you, Dima, but I want to make sure that I continue to ask for people who are watching this, and anybody here to continue, to consider supporting the cause to the Ukrainian people in an avenue that works best that you believe in. But Dima has a couple of resources. So if you do choose to follow him on his Instagram or Facebook page, you can find links that will get money to the hands of people in the Ukraine that need it, to help families that are in significant crisis. And I just continue to pray for you guys, man. I love you, brother, and I hate that you're walking through this, but I love the joy you exude, because you prove that we can overcome anything if it's all about the mindset,
Yeah, it's true, man. It's not time to cry. We have to.
That's so great. It's not time to cry. Holy
Really
crap!
fucking
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, we have to do something. We will cry after when we remember this situation, because it's, man, we have to do something, because it's. I have a feeling that if we don't do right now as much as we can, in several months the world forgot about Ukraine. Like now, the world don't know about situation with Turkey and Iraq. Yeah, this situation with Yemen. They start war again. With the situation in Morocco or something like that.
Somalia.
It's a lot of wars right now. Again. Yeah, right. Or something like that. People even don't know about that, because everybody just thinking about Ukraine. And we need to make as much as we can right now, because unfortunately, this war in Ukraine, we have to understand that for a long time. It's true. It's already 8 years, and I'm ready for that. I'm ready. I really hope that it finished really soon, but I'm from Donbass, and it started 8 years ago. So I have to smile, explain people that learn more English words or not forgot them, to explain it even better, in the future. And after play more shows, more gigs, and through the music, through my lyrics, trying to reach that people and change the world, because it's now like 8 of us, and we already trying to change the world in the way that we choose, in the way that we want, each of us. And just imagine if that army with that people trying to just imagine that it will be much more people with this same feelings, not just crying and thinking, oh, come on, we don't have a hope, we don't have a time, we lost everything. No, we lost now, but we need to think about the future and people who need support right now. Something like that.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. I know I keep saying it's cheesy, but it's love, man. I mean, if all bets are off, it's the only thing that matters. We have to find a way to get around the things that separate us to get to the things that unite us. And, if we can somehow figure out a way how to look at each other like human beings, right?
Yeah.
Something that I want to humble myself before I let you guys go here, but something to take away from this is, a few years ago, I was my job was driving a truck. I was a truck driver, and I remember I was driving down this road. It doesn't matter where, but I was driving down this road, and I saw a very overweight woman walking down the sidewalk. She was walking quite quickly, and she was wearing like workout clothes. And the very first thought in my head, guys, was look at the fat girl I went straight to the shittiest. My brain went straight to the worst thing you could say because I wanted to feel better about myself. So right, like I'm going to say it out loud. Oh well, I'm not as bad as her. And what she was doing, guys, is she was working out because she doesn't want to be overweight. And I should have said, look at that amazing woman who's doing something extraordinary for herself. But I'm throwing myself under the bus right now because, like everybody else, I'm capable of being a serious asshole. But if we could just find a way through that, if we each have had that moment where we can remind ourselves, wait a minute, these are human beings. We don't have to agree with everything. We don't have to be on the same political page, and we don't have to be the same height, and we don't have to be on the same team.
Right.
But I mean, why can't we just honor somebody for literally just being? Why does it have to be a clique or she's a fan of the band or listens to my podcast or whatever, right? Can't it just be a human being? So my prayer for each of you as you take away from this today is just look at others around you, be grateful that they exist, and be grateful you exist to interact with them, because you can change their lives for the better. And that smile that they see coming from you from a distance will change your life for the better when they respond to it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I love
Yeah,
you
right.
guys.
Perfect.
You guys are completely badass. Don't go anywhere yet. Hang on.